All right, welcome everyone to our Healing from Within. This is our monthly live workshop for helpers, healers, and aspiring coaches. Each month, we cover a specific topic related to somatic or energetic healing, and then we open up for some group discussion, Q&A with our teaching team, and if we have time, we can do some trauma energetics coaching. So if anything comes up for you guys during the presentation, you are welcome to share after I'm done, and you can ask for some support if you feel so called. So, this month we're continuing our series from our course called The Energy and Physiology of Trauma, which is the first component in our trauma energetics coaching program. And this course is such an important part of our program because it covers the foundational concepts from the trauma energetics coaching process. And this course is now free to all of the members in our Somagetic Sanctuary. So if you are a member, you can get access to this course for free. But for those of you who don't know me yet, I just wanted to introduce myself. I am Kimberly Ward. I'm the founder of Somagetics, and I have been a holistic practitioner of varying methods over the last 30 years. I've done a lot of different body work, energy healing. I was a home birth midwife. I've been a functional nutrition practitioner and somatic trauma therapist. And the work that I do now, one on one with my clients, has been so transformational that I created the Somagetics program to teach other practitioners this amazing system of healing. In July, our Healing from Within workshop was covering the specifics of the nervous system and how the language of the nervous system is energetic. And we specifically discussed the energetic perspective of trauma. And last month and today, in our September Healing from Within workshop, we continue our series with the topic of how trauma healing is inherently a spiritual process. And again, all of this content is covered in Module 1 of our Energy and Physiology of Trauma course. We cover in this module something that we call the body mind. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to be really clear here that I'm not saying that trauma healing is a religious process. I'm using the term spiritual as a reference to the part of us that is non physical, the consciousness within us. And that's the part of us that can tune into experiences beyond the five senses. This is the part of us that is not and cannot be affected by trauma. So let's start with this concept of the body mind, which is the part of us that is affected by trauma. The body mind includes the physical body, thoughts, emotions, perceptions, imagination, and rational or cognitive thinking. And I'm also including the energetic body here that we often refer to as the chakra system. Our energy, our thoughts, our emotions, our perceptions, our imagination, our rational thinking, all of that, which is part of our body mind, affects our physiology. Information and energy flow in both directions from our body to the mind and our mind to the body. So they're really intimately interconnected. In fact, they're so interconnected that we think of it as one unit. So again, we call this the body mind. And this is the part that experiences the world through our five senses. I just want to go back to an understanding of what trauma is. We define trauma as a stressful situation or a distress without resolution. So we can say that unresolved trauma is an unprocessed experience, and that unprocessed experience lives in the body mind until it is processed. So this unresolved trauma affects our physiology and our behavior. So if we have an experience of trauma or something that was overwhelming, a stress that never had resolution, that experience is being held as unresolved trauma in our body mind, and it affects our physiology and our behaviors. Through the struggle to survive this stress or trauma, we learn to depend on survival patterns of beliefs and behavior, such as these that are listed here. that keep us more identified with our trauma than with what we call our essential self. Our essential self is the part of us that has consciousness and can interact with the world beyond the five senses. But when we have unresolved trauma, we are so overwhelmed with that trauma in our system, usually subconsciously, that we have to use strategies to help us feel better, to help us regulate, to help us manage the fact that we're carrying all of this unresolved trauma. So we might avoid or ignore the fact that it's still within us. We might use substance and have addiction to substances or things like behaviors like sex addiction or gambling addiction. We might disassociate. We might repress or endure what's happening, reject or deny. We might use passive aggressive behaviors or codependent behaviors. We might be overgiving or overachieving or be stuck in a cycle of perfectionism. All of these things are ways that we try to buffer ourselves from overwhelming unresolved stress or trauma. In the trauma energetics coaching program, we teach in great detail how and why we get wired into these different patterns of defense and how to work with them specifically. But these are functions of our body mind designed to help us stay safe, designed to help us not be so overwhelmed with the unresolved energy in our system. And from a physiological standpoint, we can either be in a state of defense, fight, flight, or freeze, which all of these defensive strategies listed here are defensive strategies, putting us into fight, flight, or freeze physiology, or we can be in a state of rest and digest and repair and heal. Another way to say this that I like to say on a regular basis is that we are either in a state of reactivity or we are in a state of creativity. Reactivity happens in the body mind with our five senses. Creativity happens when the body mind is relaxed and free of trauma, free from the emotional wounds. And in this creative space, we have access to our higher self, our essential self. So, all of this kind of recap to get to the point, which is you are not your body mind. You have a body mind. You are the awareness of the experience that the body mind is having. Right? This is super important because the physical and emotional trauma that is unresolved, it's not that we had a trauma, it's only a problem if we have a trauma that's not resolved. So when we have unresolved trauma, the body keeps us identified with the five senses. The body keeps us identified with the body mind because the trauma happens to the body mind. And the unresolved trauma blocks us from accessing the non physical, creative, conscious awareness inside of us. So you can call this the true self, the higher self, the inner wise woman, the inner wise man, the divine self, your spirit, your soul, whatever you call it. This part of you is wise and loving and centered and detached, calm, peaceful, compassionate, authentic, grounded. This part of you is fearless and creative. And this part of us is always, always, always okay internally, despite what is happening within our five senses in our body mind or what's happening externally. This part of you was not and cannot ever be harmed by anything. Problem with that trauma that is not resolved is that it fragments us. Unresolved trauma separates the many different aspects of our complex human being self and keeps these different parts of us from being able to communicate with each other. And It keeps us from all of these different aspects of ourselves from working together as one unit. So, in other words, when we're carrying unresolved trauma, whether it's physical or emotional trauma, we lack coherence. Our parts and our systems don't work together harmoniously, and that leaves us feeling broken, empty, lonely, and lost. So it's not just in our mind or emotions that we feel broken or lost. Our physiology is actually totally off balance. Unresolved trauma leads to long term survival physiology, which is very disorganized. Literally, our hormones and neurotransmitters become severely dysregulated, and dysregulated systems feel broken. It's really painful on all levels, emotionally, physically, and mentally, and even spiritually. We can feel really lost because the stuck, unresolved trauma blocks our access to our life force energy, and it blocks the channel that keeps us connected to our internal wisdom. So, the good news, though, is that we can return to this sense of wholeness and resolve this unresolved trauma. And if we can regulate our nervous system and successfully integrate all of the traumatized aspects of ourselves, we can reach coherence. That means that all of the body systems are communicating and working together. So when all of the systems of our body mind are working together, they're communicating well, and we have a clear channel, the energy of trauma is cleared, we are able to reconnect with that part of us that transcends the traumatic experience. Remember, this is the part of us that is multidimensional, not just only aware of our five senses. But how do we do this? Obviously, we can't go into all the details of healing trauma in a short workshop today, but I want to share one of the most important skills with you today, and that is the skill of objectively observing what you are experiencing in your five sense body mind. And a simple practice that we use is called objectively observing. And that just means that you notice what is happening and you name what you are noticing without any judgment and with a lot of curiosity. When you're able to watch what is happening inside your body mind, you eventually realize that the you that is watching, the you that is able to notice, is the witness of the experience. And you begin to identify yourself as the consciousness that is watching and witnessing the experience. And what that means is that you are no longer the experience, but you are rather the witness of the experience. The real you is the consciousness having the experience. And as the witness of the experience, you can stay regulated. You have the capacity to choose how to respond to life from a regulated state. And from this place of awareness, you can resolve all of the past trauma that has been stuck in your system. This opens up the channel for you to easily access the wisdom of your essential self. It's the higher self inside of you that's always been there. It's just been clouded by the unresolved trauma. So, if we can clear the trauma and open up this channel, you can heal your body and change your behaviors and manifest the life of your dreams. I have one word of caution though, and that's especially for those of us that have a history of dissociation as a survival mechanism. We need to be aware of the pitfall of spiritually bypassing. Many of us can use meditation or prayer or other spiritual practices to dissociate from the body. And we may indeed feel a deep and very real connection with the spiritual realms. But the warning is that if we are using our connection to spirit as a way to withdraw from our body and from our emotions, it only prolongs the negative impact of trauma. So the key is that we learn how to attend to the body, take care of the body, but not be the body, not be associated with the body. So what we want to do is learn how to be grounded in the body and connected to who we really are, which is our divine, eternal, essential self. So to wrap it up, trauma healing includes many factors, including regulation of the nervous system, creating safety and integration of our fragmented parts. And then today, I hope that I helped you see that trauma healing is also inherently a spiritual process because unresolved trauma leads us to feeling separated from our essential self, which is not living in our five senses. It clouds us, the unresolved trauma clouds us from our ability to connect with our essential self, part of us that lives beyond the five senses, and it blocks the energetic channel that gives us access to our essential self. But as we remove that trauma, we naturally begin to feel the connection within our essential self. And we begin to feel more connected to other people and we feel more connected to the world around us. And it feels safer to be alive. As you heal the trauma, you start to identify more with your essential self. Your intuition gets much stronger, and you naturally start to trust that inner wisdom. So, your capacity to live authentically without fear increases drastically. So that is how healing is a spiritual process. It is beyond the five senses. Trauma happens in the body mind, and we identify with the body mind through the five senses. Unresolved trauma keeps us from accessing our inner wisdom, our consciousness. If we remove that unresolved trauma, it opens up the channel for us to access our inner wisdom, our higher self. And when we live from our inner wisdom of our higher self, our life becomes magical. So, learning to work with trauma from this perspective is what I teach now and what we're dedicated to at Somagetics. So, we want to help people move through this trauma faster and easier. So we are dedicated to teaching skills to other people how to do this. So we have our free community. Most of you here on this call are in the free community where we have added that energy and physiology of trauma course that's free for everyone. The first few chapters are open in the classroom, and for the next few months, we'll be going deeper into the topic of energy and physiology of trauma, and we will open more of the course as we go through the monthly workshops. We also offer the Trauma Energetics program. So, anyone that's interested in getting some deeper healing and professional training in this work, you can DM us and let us know that you want to learn more. And also, we have an amazing group of certified practitioners available if any of you need some one on one support. We have a website, somagetics.net, where you can find a list of all of our practitioners on our Find a Practitioner page. All right. So that is the end of our presentation. So I'm going to stop my share and we will open it up to questions or comments.